Good morning, children. So, we were discussing the chapter number 2 of history, that is from hunting, gathering to growing food. In this chapter, till now we have discussed the earliest people, why they were on the move. That means why they were continuously moving here and there. The reasons for this we have understood. Then, after that, how do we know about all these people, about all these earliest people? We have tried to understand that how do we know about all these earliest people. Then we have also tried to understand that how or in which kind of places they were living, and we have understood that how the earliest people have found the fire. After that, we have seen that what were the impacts of the changing environment onto the agriculture, and at last we have discussed about the beginning of farming and herding. So today we are going to see the another point, that is a new way of life. That today we are going to understand a new way of life. So this point, a way of life, is related somehow with what kind of agricultural activities they have done, or what kind of animals they have reared, or what kind of activities they were doing in their daily life. So let's try to understand that what they have done in their new way of life. So if you plant a seed, you will notice that it takes some time to grow. This may be for several days, weeks, for months, and in some cases years. When people began growing plants, it meant that they had to stay in same place for a long time, looking after the plants, watering, weeding, driving away the animals and birds till the grain ripened. And then the grain had to be used carefully. As grain had to be stored for both food and seed, people had to think of ways of storing it. In many areas, they began making large clay pots or wove baskets or dug pits into the ground. So, in this way, we can say that people had to stay at one place for a long time because they had to look after their plants, as they had to water it, weeding the unnecessary plants, driving away the animals, those who can harm the grain, till the grain ripened. And they started thinking about how to store the grain or the food in the form of food, as the source of seed, because they had to do the cultivation of the land as well as grow the new crop for their future year or coming years. So they had to store it, or they had to store the food or the seed, and for that they have made large clay pots, or they have woven the baskets, and as well as they dug pits in the ground so that all these things will be stored in that. So the people were not only storing the food in the form of grains and all that, but people were also storing the animals. Storing the animals, why? Because they were using the food as they were using the animal as the food. So storing animals that are reared can be used as a store of food. So animals are called as the store of food for the earliest people. Even today also, many of the people prefer to have non-vegetarian food with vegetarian food also. So now we are moving towards the another point, that is towards a settled life. So towards a settled life, archaeologists have found traces of huts or houses at some sites. Wherever they were doing the findings and search, at such places, at such sites, they have found the houses, the traces of houses as well as huts. And that shows that people now have stabled their life. That means now this was the time when the people have started to settle at one place. And the reason also we have seen that why they were staying at one place, as they were doing the farming, they were growing the crops, they were staying at one place, and they therefore they had to live in the houses, huts. They have also found, they means who? The archaeologists. The archaeologists have also found cooking herds, both inside the house as well as outside the house also. And this herd suggests that uh, depending upon the weather, the people used to cook inside the houses as well as outside the houses. For example, if it is so cold or if it is rainy season, so they would have been cooking the food inside the huts. Or if it is summertime, as you know very well, in the summertime it is very hot season, so the people would have been cooking outside the door. So in the same way, I have tried to show you the huts as well as the inside huts as well as the remains of outside huts over here in this picture, in the following pictures that you can see at the bottom of this slide. In towards the settled life, the another important thing is what many kind of earthen pots have also been found by the archaeologists when they were studying these regions or these areas where the earliest peoples were settled. So these earthen pots were used for what? For decoration and storing things, as well as people were weaving the clothes. They were weaving the clothes and they were using different kind of material. For example, cotton. They were using cotton for making the clothes and all that. So in this way uh, we can say that the people started to use the pots made by the mud or clay that are called as the earthen pots, as well as they have started to weave the clothes. And did things change everywhere all at once only? No, quite not. In many areas, men and women still continued to hunt and gather food. Elsewhere, people adapted farming and herding slowly. Over several thousand years, besides, in some cases, people tried to combine these activities, doing different things during different seasons. So, here, as you all know, that we are discussing about the settled life. Uh, and we have seen that how the life of the people have changed in the settled life. The people have started to use the earthen pots, they have started to weave the clothes, as well as they started to store the animals and the food. But when we see all over the subcontinent, these changes are not found in every part of the subcontinent, because somewhere the changes were occurred, but there were some places where the changes were not yet occurred. So they were doing the old things as the earliest people are doing. They were not settled. They were yet moving here and there. But there were some places also where the earliest people were practicing old things like hunting and gathering food, as well as they were doing the agriculture also. The combined type of um, things were practiced in some places. So what does it mean? That means that in the changes in the subcontinent did not occur at once or at a one time. It occurred in a course of time, slowly. Now the next point that we are going to see is the closer look to Mehrgarh. A closer look living and dying in Mehrgarh. So, if you will see the map of our country, in the northwestern part of our country where the Pakistan is there the Mehrgarh is located. This site is located in a fertile plain near the Bolan Pass, which is one of the most important routes into Iran. Mehrgarh was probably one of the places where people learnt to grow barley and wheat and rear sheep and goats for the first time in this area. It is one of the earliest villages that we know about. At this site, many animal bones were found. Bones of wild animals such as deer and pig, and also bones of sheep and goat were also found. Other finds at Mehrgarh include remains of square or rectangular houses. As you can see in this picture here, this kind of houses were also found. So when people die, sorry, as you can see here, these houses, such kind of houses were found. In each house had four rooms, as you can see here. This kind of four rooms were there, and each house has four or more compartments in it, some of which may have been used for storage. Storage means which kind of storage? Storage of food, storage of animals. In that way, the people were storing some of the people were using some of the compartments as the storerooms. So as you can see here, Mehrgarh was one of the places where people learned to grow barley and wheat, and they used to rear the sheeps as well as the goats. So in this way, they were doing all these things in this Mehrgarh area. In the Mehrgarh, at these villages, in the various villages found in the Mehrgarh, the animal bones were also found. Other finds at Mehrgarh include remains of square rectangle houses, as you can see here. And the very important thing is what? When the people were dying, when the people die, their relatives and friends pay so much of respect to them. It was found uh, that how it was found that they were giving so much of respect to the people, those who were dead. As you can see here, one picture is shown here. The burials, in the burials, the dead person was buried with goats, which were probably meant to serve as food in the next world. Several burial sites have been found at Mehrgarh. So, what does it mean? That means that when the people were dying, the relatives and friends were paying respect to them in the form of the food they were providing them for the next life. That means the people, relatives, and friends were burying some sheeps with the person inside the grave, inside the burial. And as you can see here, the human skeleton is kept inside the burial with some sheep or goats, as you can see over here. So in this way, they were giving so much of respect to the uh, dead people, those who are dying for their next life. So, till here we have discussed the chapter. Some of the points are remaining that are like perhaps in the belief that there is some form of life after death. Burial is one such arrangement. Several burial sites have been found at Mehrgarh. In one instance, the dead person was buried with goats, which were probably meant to serve as food in the next world. So it is the example of the same thing that we have discussed right now, that burials, some of the burials were found where the human skeletons are found with the skeleton of goats. That means at the time of burial, or at the time of burying the people, they were keeping some of the goats with them or some of the animals with them, so that in the next life, that person who died will have that things or these goats in the form of food. So thank you very much. It is the end of the chapter. Second chapter is finished, and the question and answers we will discuss in the next period, that is just after this period. And I hope that you have understood all these points related to the chapter, and let's have the discussion of the question and answers. Thank you very much.